why walking away became her smartest career move. It didn't feel brave in the moment. It felt like failure wrapped in relief. A quiet exit no one applauded. Walking away is often framed as weakness, a sign that someone couldn't handle pressure or push through discomfort. In modern careers, staying is praised. Endurance is celebrated. But today, more professionals are discovering that leaving at the right time can be a strategic decision, not an emotional one. The ability to recognize when a situation has stopped serving growth and act on that recognition despite external pressure to remain is a form of intelligence that rarely gets credited. It is easier to describe endurance as strength than to explain why stepping back was a sharper move. To understand why stepping away became her smartest move, we need to look at what she was walking from. Her role was respected. Her performance was strong. On paper, everything worked. Promotions were possible. Security was steady. The path ahead was clearly defined. She had built something real, a track record, a reputation, a network. None of it was imaginary. None of it was fragile. And that made leaving harder to justify, even to herself. When things are working, the case for staying is automatic. The case for leaving has to be constructed carefully and held against constant resistance. But clarity can be deceptive. Over time, her growth slowed, not because she lacked ability, but because the environment no longer demanded it. Challenges became predictable. Feedback became repetitive. The work no longer stretched her thinking. It simply consumed her time. There is a particular kind of fatigue that comes not from being overloaded, but from being underutilized, from knowing that your ceiling is higher than the room allows. She had begun to feel the ceiling. Though she couldn't always articulate it clearly, it showed up as restlessness, as a growing sense that time was passing without compounding into something meaningful. She noticed it first in her energy. Curiosity faded. Initiative felt forced. The spark that once drove her to excel dimmed quietly. She wasn't overwhelmed. She was underchallenged. And that was harder to explain. Burnout comes with visible symptoms. Stagnation is quieter, easier to rationalize, easier for others to dismiss. No one schedules a meeting about being underchallenged. No performance review flags diminishing curiosity as a warning sign. So the signal stayed internal, and she carried it alone for longer than she should have. Still, leaving didn't make sense to anyone else. There was no crisis to point to, no dramatic reason to justify the exit, just an internal understanding that staying meant trading potential for comfort. That trade was not theoretical. She could feel it accumulating. Every week she remained was a week she didn't spend in an environment that asked more of her. The opportunity cost was invisible on her resume, but significant in her development. And that realization made the decision impossible to ignore. The resistance came from every direction. Questions disguised as concern. Advice framed as caution. People asked what she was running from. She struggled to explain that she wasn't running at all. She was responding to stagnation. But stagnation is hard to describe when everything looks fine. There were no warning signs others could see, only a growing sense that time was slipping away unchallenged. The hardest part of that resistance was that it came from people who cared about her. Their concern was genuine, but it was shaped by what they could observe: stability, reputation, a clear future, rather than what she was experiencing internally, which was something closer to slow erosion. Staying felt easier than leaving. Familiar systems, predictable expectations, a role that no longer required full attention. Comfort wrapped itself around routine, making dissatisfaction feel unreasonable. And that made the internal conflict sharper. She knew what she felt, but she couldn't always defend it convincingly. And when you can't defend a feeling to the people around you, it's tempting to doubt the feeling itself. She delayed the decision longer than she admits now, hoping motivation would return, that a new project might reignite interest, that gratitude would replace restlessness. But nothing changed. The environment stayed the same, and so did the feeling. It persisted not because she was ungrateful or impatient, but because it was accurate. The environment had genuinely stopped matching what she needed in order to grow. When she finally walked away, the reaction was muted. No dramatic fallout, no immediate consequences, just space. And in that space, uncertainty rushed in. Without a defined role, her value felt abstract. Progress felt invisible. The clarity she once had vanished overnight. She had exchanged the legibility of a title for the ambiguity of a direction. And directions, in their early stages, don't always look like much from the outside. But alongside the discomfort, something else appeared. Awareness. She noticed how quickly she adapted, how many skills transferred, how much energy returned when she wasn't suppressing curiosity. The fear of leaving slowly gave way to the relief of alignment. She discovered that she had been managing herself at a fraction of her actual capacity. Removing the constraint didn't create chaos. It created room. Walking away didn't solve everything. It removed what was quietly limiting her. And that distinction changed how she viewed the risk she had taken. The hardest part came after the relief faded, when novelty wore off and reality settled in. Without a clear label attached to her work, comparison became louder. Others moved forward visibly. Titles changed. Announcements were shared. Meanwhile, her progress was internal, difficult to measure and easy to doubt. The absence of external validation made discipline essential. She had to find ways to measure her own progress in a landscape where the standard metrics no longer applied. That required a kind of self-awareness she hadn't been asked to develop before. She built it slowly, through reflection, and through paying close attention to what actually moved her forward. She had to rebuild momentum from scratch. Structure no longer existed unless she created it. Goals had to be chosen deliberately. Effort had to be self-directed. And that responsibility exposed fears she hadn't faced before. Fear of choosing wrong. Fear of wasting time. Fear of realizing that leaving wasn't enough on its own. She understood that departure was only the first move. What followed had to be intentional, or the freedom she had created would simply become unstructured drift. But growth returned in unexpected ways. She began seeking environments that challenged her again. Not louder ones, smarter ones. She gravitated toward problems that demanded learning instead of repetition. Work became immersive, not because it was safer, but because it was engaging. For the first time in years, she ended her days feeling that she had actually used herself, that the effort she had extended had left something behind rather than simply maintaining what already existed. The contrast became clear. In the role she left, time passed quickly, but meaning didn't accumulate. Now, progress felt slower, but deeper. Each step added clarity instead of convenience. And with that clarity came confidence rooted in capability, not comfort. She was building something she understood from the inside, not inheriting a structure someone else had designed. Walking away didn't make her fearless. It made her intentional. Yet the real transformation wasn't external. It was a realization that staying too long had been the greater risk all along. The clarity arrived quietly, not as certainty, but as alignment. Her work began reflecting who she was becoming, not who she had been. Effort felt purposeful again. Learning felt expansive. The fear of instability remained, but it no longer controlled her decisions. She had traded predictability for growth, and the return was deeper than comfort ever offered. Comfort had given her a place to stand. Growth gave her somewhere to go. Walking away wasn't about rejecting responsibility. It was about choosing responsibility that mattered, the kind that stretches ability instead of numbing it, the kind that demands presence, not endurance. And once she experienced that difference, returning to stagnation was no longer an option. She had recalibrated her sense of what work could feel like, and that recalibration made certain compromises permanently unacceptable. Her story isn't about quitting. It's about timing. Knowing when staying stops serving growth. Knowing when loyalty to a role becomes disloyalty to potential. And recognizing that the smartest career move isn't always the one that looks strongest on paper. The moves that look strongest on paper are often the ones that keep you visible. The moves that prove smartest over time are often the ones that keep you growing. She chose growth. And that choice, quiet and unannounced as it was, changed the entire arc of what followed. In a world that rewards persistence, discernment often goes unnoticed. But those who learn when to step away tend to build careers that evolve instead of repeat. Subscribe to join the journey. Why